from the Alliance for Women Film Composers, Composers Diversity Collective, and we also want to thank Women in Film, Film Fatales, and Reframe, and we're just stoked to be here. So thank you so much. Is it set up so we can go? Is this gonna work? We're just gonna try the best we can. It's a wild setup. There will be servers coming through. Okay. I'm the co-president of the Alliance for Women Film Composers, along with Allison Nimrit, and who's running she's our DP for the evening. Now, so we've got gathered with us today from Wicker, we have director Eleanor Wilson and composer Anna Meredith. Okay, and so from Bait, we have composer Shruti, Kumar, and Kira, Elwes, thank you so much. Great, yes. Music supervisor and composer, yes. Okay, we've got Amanda Jones here, and she's with Cookie Queens. And then we've got Run Amok. We've got director NB Magar and composer Mandy Hoffman. And finally, we have from American Doctor, we have the composer Suad Bushnak as well. So we're very stoked to have all these folks here representing. To start us off, we have everything from kids staging a high school musical about trauma to a medieval fable to doctors in Gaza, vastly different worlds. What's a common thread in how directors and composers find each other and build trust when entering these intense creative spaces? So you want to just kick it off with like, I know it's like kind of a dooze. So maybe, start
with the easy one.
Yeah, right? Honestly, you want to know what I really want to know is when did you come on the process? Let's do that one, okay? When did you start working on the process for your film? So let's start with you.
Should I hold my mic?
We'll do that.
So I came onto the process of American Doctor exactly a year ago when I reconnected with a director that I met 7 years earlier.
Awesome.
But I only started scoring it along with my two co-writers, Henry Mitten and Kamal Bushnak.
Awesome.
A month before delivery, pretty much.
My gosh.
Yes.
Incredible. Let's just go down this line. It's great.
When did I come on?
I met you on my birthday, which is October 24th.
October, so I think it was October 25th.
Yes.
October 25th, and we found out that we got in a couple weeks later, and it was a race to the finish, just like today.
Yeah. This October.
Yeah. Wow.
That's impressive.
My birthday's the 26th of October.
Scorpios.
Yes. We're good Scorpios. So I joined Cookie Queens July this past year, and so it was about 6 months to kind of knock it out, and it was great.
Well, it's differently than these other projects. Bait is a series. Kira has a different story for this because she's a supervisor and came on much before me. But I think I came on in 2024 at some point, and then in earnest, 2025 winter was like the beginning stages, and then it snowballed to the finish line, which is not that long ago. So, but Kira was before me.
Yeah, I think I was on from like August 2023 or something, so like early script stages, doing pre-clearances, all that kind of stuff, and yeah, we kind of finished the project about October this year, so a much longer timeline than everyone else. More time to think about it.
We've been at it for a while, haven't we?
You came to a gig, right?
Yeah, I went to a gig of Anna's Cod. Maybe 3. When were you in LA? What was
2020?
Oh, it was later. 22, yeah.
Sorry.
So my partner and I co-directed and co-wrote this film, and we were just huge fans of Anna's, so we cold reached out to her about this. But Anna came on board.
What one piece?
Right. There's a dance in the film that required the piece of music to be written earlier, and Anna luckily was up for it. It was like, we've got like a choreography rehearsals in a week. Like, could you no pressure, but and she just like knocked it out of the park. And so it was like kind of a really cool thing to collaborate so early. And then I guess like a really intense thing was more like summer last year. Yeah.
Amazing. Sorry. Okay, we got it. Now we're going to be coordinated. So we're going to stick with you guys for a little bit. But these folks have to scoot a little bit early, so we're going to do our questions with y'all first, with our Wicker team. So with your compositions for electronic music and acoustic music, concert music, as the Guardian quoted, majestic bangers,
right.
very
Oh,
good,
yes.
very
So
good
good.
full quote. It made me really happy when I saw that. And you smashed your way into the scene with 8th grade and film scoring. It's interesting. This is like a medieval landscape. Like, how did you approach the score going in, and what did that? There's a version you could be very period, and then there's a version in which you are not. So I was just wondering, like, what your approach was with the score.
Well, I guess the total gift was that El and Al wanted the score to have a real sound, and for me that's what I want, is a score where I can do something bold. That I don't really mind what language it is, whether it's electronic or acoustic or a mix, but I want it. I'm up for things where there's space for the music to have an identity. So I think we weren't trying to think of there's a period aspect to the story itself, but we didn't want it to have a directly period sound, but I knew it needed to be acoustic.
Yeah.
So the main sound of this score is recorders.
Oh, I love it.
Pretty cool, right?
Just a little intriguing
I
sprinkle.
love it. Are they like deeply processed all over the place? Or are they like writing
there's
some?
There's a real mix.
Okay.
I end up playing a lot of the recorder myself.
Oh, very good.
For purely economic reasons.
Amazing.
What I didn't know about recorders, I learned on this project, is there's more than just the recorder that we know. I'm sure everyone in this room knows this, but there's like these massive recorders.
Yeah.
It was very cool, and
There's
we
one
used the
that's so
gamut.
massive, like we had to use this, millions of recorders, including a contrabass recorder that's so big that it wouldn't fit in the room we were recording in.
Oh, I
we had
love
to have
it.
a special room with like a kind of hatch.
And you stand on top.
This thing.
Oh,
Anyway,
amazing.
so I learned a lot about recorders / never do it again.
Slash lesson.
Yeah.
So when you first had those conversations about this music itself, like, did you have any idea, like, when you were thinking about it as a director, like what you envisioned with the score, or what were those first conversations like?
Yeah, it was pretty open, like, because I think we didn't really know exactly what we wanted. We just wanted, like Anna said, like something really distinctive, and we kind of just trusted that we're just such fans of her work that we were like, we just think this is going to be the right fit.
Yeah.
And it definitely was. But we talked. I think it was that first sort of like folk music piece that you wrote, but then I remember you just said recorders, and we're like, yeah, sure, like let's go forth, like let's just see what this sounds like. And one of the first after the dance, one of the first pieces of music that Anna wrote for the film score was just this very small scene in a river that's like very sort of serene and beautiful, and that version is exactly what's in the movie, because Anna played it herself. It was, like you said, a little treated, little like interesting and weird, and like she played it to us over Zoom, and I just cried in the moment. I was like, I don't know how you did it, but this is it. Like, this is exactly it.
So that was sort of the moment where you're like, we're safe here.
Like,
we know what we're doing.
Thinking about it, like, it's just the best. And I still, to this day, like, that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie now, because it just, all the pieces came together so beautifully. And then this was the glue. It was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And you said it's loaded with music, right? Like, there's tons and tons. Yeah.
How many?
There's a lot.
It's the whole movie is score. There's no needle drops, so it was a huge undertaking.
And it's a gift, because the music is given these little standalone moments, these little interludes that can be really strong. And it was such a privilege to write, because I could write up and take lots of space
Take
up.
the room.
Yeah, why not? Right.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, y'all. That's great. Let's get into our next project here for Bait. It's a television series about a 4-day spiral. Shruti and Kira working together as composer and music supervisor. How did you divide that musical territory? Do you want to start first as composer and sort of join that conversation about, like, how did you divide that territory, and where does the musical score hand off to the licensed material?
Okay. Well, first of all, the spiral is so vague. We can say a little bit more. It's about an actor, South Asian, British, Pakistani actor who auditions for Bond and then spirals over the next 4 days, right? That's now knowledge. So there's a lot, and there's a lot of genre. Kira was on this before me, and she was probably involved in the process of hiring me as well. But I remember in the brief, there were so many genres and so many emotions and this real sense of also like reclaiming Bond for South Asians too. So a cultural component, but also a genre component, right? Because the original Bond theme was actually taken from like an old Sitar Indian. Yeah. So it was kind of like this like attitude towards it, but that's not very concrete, right? So I remember when I pitched for it, I was like, the playlist had so many amazing references. I knew from the beginning I wanted to be a part of the project. I don't know if Kira made that playlist, but I was like, I love everything. It's like all bangers. I need to be on this project, but how do I write a demo for this? And I think I made some small theme and put it through a bunch of genres to be like, okay, we don't know what we're doing. We're going to have to puzzle piece together a sound, but that's going to be the challenge. And so I think there is tension. There's Bond genre. There's South Asian elements. There's British elements. There's songs, rap. So Kira was in charge of that. And I don't think I passed anything off to her. If anything, she was puzzle piecing like the puppeteer, and I was like receiving. You can get into this.
Yeah. So you were on well early, right?
Yeah, and also like Riz's first time showrunner as well. So there was it was actually really just exciting to sort of explore the kind of how you even approach. And from the very beginning, we spoke about using vintage Lollywood and Bollywood songs, and so we made this big playlist of all this amazing stuff from 60s and 70s that we could luckily clear. And then Shruti did an amazing job, because actually there's a lot of music in this, and it's quite disparate, but you found a really good way of looping them together in a way that gives cohesion to we literally have grime, British rap for people. I was like, is that going to translate? And then we have vintage Lollywood, vintage Bollywood. We have we even cleared a Bond score piece for the very opening to kind of give it that real that sense of presence, because it wasn't a full orchestra kind of budget show for poor Shruti.
I did discover that British brass players are the Bond sound. And so, if I did that full
they're
orchestra,
amazing.
those brass players just came in to save me. I will say also tension and across genre and finding sounds. This is my favorite story I even told Riz. We were trying to figure out what would give tension in a comedy with Bond, with genre, with South Asian elements, with really heavy themes too, right? It's a comedy about there's tones of racism and what's happening in the world today, and tension, and he kept coming back to breathing and breath work, and I was trying to breathe into my mic and be okay, am I panting in the right way? Am I doing Sufi breathing? And I was like, Riz, can you just send me a WhatsApp of your breathing just so I can sample it around just for demos? Finally, my father is really into breathwork. And so at 11th hour night at 11 p.m., I text my dad being Dad, you got to send me some breathwork. I know you're really into it. This is your jam. This is your moment. And my dad sent me an hour and a half of different Sufi breathing patterns, which, in series, score materializes so differently, different pieces get puzzle piece. But one of the things that has remained in the tension and different moments is my dad's breathing. Wow. So I feel you never know what the glue is going to be when you have so many components, but Kira did an amazing job too of also, I don't often get to talk to a music supervisor, and I feel there were many times she checked in onto me, she was are you okay? Are you sure you get the brief here? And I was so grateful to her, massive. So work music supervisors are the best. Everyone should be friends with them.
Yes. That's awesome. Okay, so for Cookie Queens, this is Girl Scouts selling those cookies, but there's a real stakes in that business. It's huge. How did you but you're also dealing with kids. How do you score for these kid stories where you're being sensitive to their persons and also not being too cloying and cutesy poo? How did you find the sweet spot,
Yeah, that was a really important conversation to have, to make sure it wasn't too cute all the time. I think that's the easy way to go. It's very much a coming of age sort of story. So kind of just putting it through the lens of these are real issues they're dealing with, pressure and high stakes situations and trying to sell and, parental expectation and expectation in general. Because when you purchase these boxes, you're kind of on the hook for them financially. So there's the families involved. Everyone's very much very stressed, during cookie selling season. So, it was important to create themes. So we track 4 girls through a selling season.
Yeah.
So each girl has their own theme. And it's kind of playful, whimsical. The instrumentation's strings and piano, and so a little bit some stuff that's just just a little bit of percussion, but percussion that's just me banging on stuff, just a variety of things. It's playful, and yeah, I guess it was just more. I approached it more as if they were adult women, going through adult themes, rather than playing to the childish nature of them, because they're cute enough on camera, so it plays against it nicely.
Yeah, because all those feelings are so big and real. Like,
exactly.
I feel like we're gonna get into that with your project as well. But like when you're addressing that, it's like, did you also find that there was like big arcing themes as well, or did you mainly focus like individual like storylines for each of the four
a
folks?
kind of like a sisterhood, theme. Of just bonding with your friends through the selling season.
Yeah.
And your siblings, that are helping you, older siblings. And then also there's like a selling theme, just like the highest stakes.
Selling, because it's such a big biz.
Exactly. So, and a lot of the needle drops were very like Riot Girl.
Oh, cool.
So for the selling theme, we kind of like played into that a little bit. It was kind of like punkish, like a little bit like jazzy punk. I don't know.
So do you get to like pull out the guitar and do like the full your band background as well?
Exactly. That was fun. It was a lot of wailing, crazy guitar sounds for that selling theme. Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so let's talk about Run Amok. MB, would you be able to tell us a little bit about? I mean, where do we want to start with this? Actually, Mandy. Let's start with Mandy first. You're scoring a film where the protagonist is like literally staging this musical, right?
Yes.
There are all these different layers. How do you dance between the musical itself and the underscore?
Well,
what were those conversations like?
I came on late, and they already worked out the music before I came on, even though we had to replace some of it.
Yeah.
But our lead character is a harpist.
Sure. Alyssa.
Alyssa!
Yay! You made it in our room!
So we knew we had to have harp and a ton of harp, and we have a very like character-driven story. So we decided that every source of music would start and end with Meg, and so it was always Meg's perspective.
Oh, that's awesome.
Of the world. And so the harp, we used live harp in pretty much every cue.
Yeah.
And then the strings kind of came in as glue, and some flute and some synths, and it gets dark.
Yeah.
Definitely gets into light horror.
Yeah.
But it's also a comedy. Yeah. So the tone gets like going between very dark and very light comedic scenes. It was, I mean, the credit to this one.
I remember when I saw the blurb that Sundance wrote for the film, and they wrote that the film works tonal miracles. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've like never felt so understood by a blurb. I mean, it was because that was like, I knew going into the project that that's what I would need to try to do, because it runs the gamut of emotions. But Meg, again, she plays the harp. She's lugging this giant instrument around with her, and I think it was really clear that like the music in the movie, it's like her internal monologue, right? And so when we're hearing the music, like we're hearing what's happening for her in her head, because she's a musician, and so music is like it's definitely a character in the film, and it's Meg's character in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and it like it sounds like with your film, there's definitely room where we got to stretch our legs with the music and the different tones and moods. And
Mandy makes some very bold choices, which I feel like are very right for the story.
Yeah, we took some risks.
That's incredible. Oh, I love it. That's so great. Shall we move on? Here we go. American Doctor, right? So this film is following these doctors around with different backgrounds. When you were thinking about the different doctors, were you creating individual different score themes for each character? And like, I imagine trying to find the unification between all of these people's journeys in Gaza. How did you approach the score? Did you start with individual themes? What was that like for you in talking with your director and starting?
Yeah. The main thing we wanted for the film was to have a restrained score that doesn't overwhelm or interfere with what's being shown on screen, particularly because of how hard the topic is and how current it is. So that was a big challenge. I'm a big orchestral kind of girl, and I was asked to do something on the other extreme,
Yeah.
right? So thinking about themes in particular for each doctor wasn't the first thing that that was on the table. It was more about the sound palette that we wanted. That was more like atmospheric with a bit of piano, something that sounded very current.
Yeah.
And we needed to get that glue figured out first.
Yeah.
But what we did end up doing in terms of thematic material is that there are 3 doctors: a Jewish American doctor, a Palestinian American doctor, and the third one who is a Zoroastrian, I don't know how to pronounce it, doctor. And out of the three of them have a lot in common, and they work together in Gaza.
Yeah.
But out of the 3 of them, the only one who's denied entry to Gaza is the Palestinian one. So particularly because he has a Palestinian background. So that was the one we decided as a team, he needs a theme for himself.
Yeah.
So we hear his theme, and that's kind of like the not the apology, almost like an apology to him, but it's a hero theme that kind of just validates his existence, even though he was denied entry. And that needed to also blend with the rest of the score.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of calibrating until we got into a sound world that was authentic to what we're seeing.
Yeah.
It was a very American sounding, like not American, but what I mean is just because I'm Arab, the request was not Middle Eastern music at all, because these are American doctors at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And we managed to finally get the right recipe, and it was smooth sailing after that.
Once you got that.
Yes.
Did you find that you were delivering different demos of the score where like you would get, I sometimes would like play with the dial, like here's what less is, here's
Yes.
version 2, which is like middle amount, here's all bells and whistles going nuts all the way, like to be able to sort of like find it? Or did you just deliver the cue and they're like, please less, or did you give them at the beginning like some iterations that you could sort of, sometimes I find that sort of helpful, like did you find yourself doing that, or did you just go and they're just like maybe, like how did you address like finding the space for their stories?
There are 2 scenes in particular that stand out for me. The first one was a scene in the 3rd act of the film that was basically the climax of the film, and it's a scene about a surgery on a 13-year-old girl who's most likely going to die, but they're still trying to save her. That one, I wrote it in one go, and it landed. They loved it.
Oh, that's great.
So we parked it until tackling the rest of the cues. But the one that gave me hell was the intro. And I did something that was, I think version 1 was not the right one. Version 2, I kind of rushed it. Version 3, I loved it.
Yeah.
They hated it. So then we kept on going and going and going. And eventually, because it was too big, they told me it's too big for the film. And I was like, okay, understandable. So I went and I tried to restrain, mute some stems, rework the whole thing. They told me the build up to it wasn't like linear. It was doing kind of this. And I'm like, okay, so I revamped the whole thing, new session. And then on one of our penultimate meetings, they were like, we want you to hear the song at the end of the film, which I didn't write. Yeah. How about we do something like that? And I'm like, can we just please go back to V3? Because I think that's the one. We listened together to V3 and the director was in tears. She's like, that's the one. I'm like, awesome. There we go.
Yeah.
So sometimes you realize that it might have sounded too big when we were at the beginning of the process.
You're in the first act.
Exactly.
You're just like, it's overwhelming and you're just like,
yes,
I don't want
too much. But once by the time we agreed that it's the version, we had scored the whole film, me and my additional writers. And by then it was like, it's the one. And let's just stick to it.
It's so important to make sure every one of those versions are saved and saved, and you don't just like only look to the future.
Exactly.
Like that, all of that can really show up toward the end, or when you reflect back and you realize this film has taken its own course.
Yes, yes.
Can I get with you guys real quick? I do running. And I take this. Did you have any moments like that for you when you were like looking at the cut, looking at the picture, and all of a sudden realizing like, oh, this is a different thing, or like all of a sudden it's like, I know you had the opening where you're just like, this is incredible, but like, or first recorder moments, but like, are there any other places that, it affected the edit or vice versa? Or?
Yeah, we were lucky. I mean, we were picture locked when we really went into it, but Anna had done a lot of like little bits in the lead up to it. So a lot of the temp that we had in was pieces of Anna's stuff that, little things. But once we got into it, like we did open up the edit again, like at times, because we were like, oh, this piece of music is too good. We just need to stretch this moment out. Sometimes we could do that, sometimes we couldn't, and it was, I'm sure, intensely frustrating when we're like, unfortunately, like that note has to hit exactly that, you know, like. And so we definitely had those struggles too. But there was one, I think, similarly, like the second, like the really big piece when she's like going to that I feel like when we first heard that, we were like, oh, this piece of music is amazing, but of course it's like too big for this moment, like we can't have. And then I think we actually just put it in the cut and showed our producers, and they were all like, hey, it's incredible. Like, oh yeah, it's incredible, that's right. And Anna was very relieved, because I think that piece took you like many days to compose. There's so many notes in it that I don't know, maybe.
No, I mean, I was really, again, lucky that there was, people who care about the music enough to, when I'm being a nightmare and saying, no, that I cannot cut a beat. It will not, and like go away, okay, and try and, it was really beautiful to try and make it all sync up, especially the scenes that are almost like little mini music videos where there's not much dialogue and everything's choreographed perfectly. But there was inevitably stuff that you have to try and work out what to do, and the bigness things, and to sort of be like, I think we circled back a few times to things, and it fortunately ended up being in there.
Oh, that's great. So for Kira and Shruti, I was wondering, let's talk more about the tension aspect. Like when you're looking at the way that you address the score and the individual, how important was that? I know you were talking about like finding the tone amongst the team. Like, what did that look like for you to like dial that in? Is that feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky thing to do with a comedy that's also like a psychological thriller, because you're kind of struggling to do a lot of things and also make it funny at the same time. So we did speak a lot about, areas that we did and didn't want to like play into like comedic aspects, obviously. But anything that was kind of like super tension was very much like Shruti's realm, and they really use the source cues are really more as a like they're big bold choices that accentuate the comedy and also give it a really like nice South Asian like identity, because it's this stuff that people will have been raised listening to, and the way that the director shot some of the sequences are very like Bollywood style, like very like over the top dramatic, like, with the zoom ins and things. So we really had a lot of fun with playing with that from a source perspective. And then I think Shruti can really speak more to the tension, because there's a few sort of sad key moments, but they're mostly kind of quite bold and brash in your face.
Right. I mean, Kira's like completely right with the comedy and tension. It's just so difficult, right? And I think this can play into a little bit of the last question, a little bit of reversions, and how we go with that, because my approach to this, because there was so much we had to cover, and it's a comedy, and they're shorter comedy episodes, right? And we weren't in picture lock, right? So we were just testing all these sounds, and a big source of direction for me, or like we need to figure out the tension. The tension is really what we need to nail with the score. That was tough, because it was easy to start with the Bond stuff, right? Because Bond is Bond. You can't really like rewrite the script on Bond. But what's going to give the tension without being too much, right? Like so many times, I actually started delivering multiple versions early on of every cue, just because there were so many options. Now this can also smack you in the face later, because when they get used, and this is no one's fault, because of course if you're like used to getting 7 options for like to figure out the palette, then you'd start getting the question, is that the only version you have? Is that the only version you have? And I was like, because I think it should be, what don't you like about this?
You're steering the ship at first, and then you sort of find.
But I think the tension, because we did have all these genre things, Bond, South Asian, a lot of percussive elements that really like helped play with silence. I think where the silence went ended up being the key to how the tension worked. And we had a lot of ADR, a lot of recuts, a lot of jokes, like insanely good jokes. So when you're scoring to not picture lock, and these like Patrick Stewart's in this film and has like these insanely funny lines. And I remember saying in the dub once, like, I don't want to fight Patrick Stewart. Like, it's okay, you can turn the bass down. And I love bass, so it takes a lot for me to say turn the bass down. But I think the tension did come from a lot of these like environmental, like reamped breaths. I put like tons of pedals on my dad's breaths. And like the synths, cool. We weren't really leaning into a synth sound, but I did process so much stuff. Even like old versions of cues that were chucked, I just would just like mess them up. And then I think some of that noise ended up being a lot of the environment for the tension. And then everything else was just like drama, and then silence.
That's great.
Timing. It was all timing, really.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So awesome. So Amanda, on this, you've done everything from, Murderbot to Adventure Times and all these other wonderful things. And just curious, like when you approach a documentary, do you find, aside from timeline and all these other things, do you approach it in any different way, or in this project, did you approach, how did
I
you
guess
get in
for-
that psychological space
for-
to be
For
doing
this
this?
one, let me think about that. It was like the thematic material was just really important.
Yeah.
Like something like Adventure Time, it's a very wacky, wonderful show. I can kind of just stream of consciously right from beginning to end.
Yeah.
It's just kind of just this output that's just fun and crazy.
Yeah.
But I feel like with Cookie Queens, it was very much like formulaic in the sense of just like identifying clear themes, for our characters and other important aspects of the film,
Yeah.
and then just targeting that and kind of peppering those themes throughout the film, and then just fleshing them out. So it was really, we introduced all 4 girls at the beginning of the film, so it was essential to kind of create those themes. And that was kind of a moment where it took some time to really just make sure we had it right, before we could fully move on with the rest of the film.
Right.
So those introductions, like at the beginning, were essential.
Yeah.
To like land that.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, every process is a little bit different. It's just the way it's cut, I guess, really kind of informs that process. And
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, that's awesome. For you guys, I wanted to talk even a little bit more about like making sure you're landing comedy versus like addressing very like big human issues of trauma and getting into those darker spaces. Like, how did you find navigating those spaces as the composer, and what talks did you have? Did you do a bunch of different versions, or were you just like blazing like to get there? Yeah. Because it is such a dance to like find the perfect thing. Say what the Sundance quote said again. It was so perfect. Miraculous.
Tonal miracles, working tonal miracles.
That tonal miracle idea. It's like, and the interior voice of all that, and really just giving them their full ownership. Your people. How was that in the process of finding those, where it gets scary, where it leans the comedy, and how do you hold true to that?
Yeah,
musical job.
Well, while we didn't really have a music editor, we did have a music master here. And NB really cut in a temp score. Like, I came in late. We had no time. And NB's temp score was like the guiding light. It was really strong. I mean, she cut different pieces of music together from different scores and built stuff. So the map was kind of laid out for me, and we had a really great spot, and we both live in New York, so we were able to work in person. And we had this opening epic cue, also the hardest opening cue.
Yeah.
And in this opening cue, which is like mostly solo harp, we kind of came up with these points in the cuts which were like little mini themes, so it's almost
like an overture.
Yeah,
You did an overture. That's incredible.
So we had that, and so then I went in like my spreadsheet and mapped out which themes were going to go in which area and how they would change and evolve. And then palette wise, we just had different sounds for different areas, and it was a mad rush, and we worked like crazy crazy hard, and lots and lots and lots of revisions and in-person like close conversation. It's very musical. I do want to give a shout out to Samesh Yatham for doing orchestration and additional writing. It helped save the day.
Incredible.
Yeah. So
that's great. All right, I'll miss you. Thank you so much. Great premiere. Go see it. Amazing. Yeah.
Or am I done?
Yeah. We can go back to talking about. Oh, actually, I think that. Yeah, I did have one other thing I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's something to note that temp scores aren't a bad thing all the time.
No.
Like, I think that that's so helpful, especially when you're at the crunch, to be able to have a conversation about what's working and what's not, and to find that shape. So, right?
Yeah, I mean, the temp score is a guide, and it can tell you how to shape the film.
Yeah.
But then how do you translate that to be cohesive?
Yeah.
And of one thought. I mean, that's challenging, and that's where a lot of work was. But
Yeah.
I mean, it did save us.
Yeah, that's great. For you, and we can go back to the documentary versus narrative. I know you mentioned like your sweet spot is big orchestral. But do you find any difference from working in a documentary space versus narrative film? And what are those for you? What do those look like?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, working on a documentary to begin with tends to be a more laborious process, just because most of the time picture lock is not picture lock, as we all know. And sometimes that involves a total restructure of the film, because when you're working in narrative, there's at least a script that's being followed and a shot list. So like, if picture changes, it's probably like, we made this shorter, made that longer. But with documentary, you could have a total restructuring of the film. And that tends to be where most of the work goes, which is why, as much as I love coming on early on films, when it comes to documentaries, I prefer to kind of tackle maybe the one cue, like with this one in particular, I asked early on which sequences were definitely locked. And they did stay locked. One of them, actually, they just added a couple frames at the very end. But tackling these at first, and these are usually, in this film in particular, the two scenes that were locked were the biggest ones. One of them was that climactic scene in the third act. And in a way, it was a good way to write one of the biggest cues in the film and establish some sort of sound world there. But I mean, you always have to take that into account with documentary and not complain about it, because it's part of the process, And with narrative, I feel with narrative, I get more freedom exploring and maybe like rehashing and letting the score simmer a little more, because there aren't many challenges coming towards me as a composer. So I get the luxury of time of kind of, you know what, I want to just like tweak this a little more and enhance it. And that for me is a major source of happiness when I get to really let something simmer on slow heat.
That's great. I think we could ask a couple questions from the group and then we'll call it. Does anyone have any questions? Well, if we don't have any questions, then I'm going to just do one extra question. That's a quick fire. And then we're going to get the heck out of here. Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask if you had to give any advice to emerging filmmakers, composers. Let's just do a little quick music supervisors. Just a quick piece of something you wish you knew, quick piece of advice. Robin.
I think first and foremost, know what you're talking about with clearances, because I think there's a lot of music supervisors out there who think that the fun part of the job is just choosing music and not actually understanding that there's serious lawyer related aspects of this job that are actually very, very important. And I think being very organized and across everything as well. I think the more there's cohesion between score and music supervision, the better projects work.
That's amazing.
So that's what I would say.
That's great. Shruti?
Yeah, I mean, I can't stress that enough. Like having other people on your team really matters. Projects are all different. Some are harder than others. Some are more stressful. Communication is a malleable animal, whatever beast. Like it's never going to be the same with every team. So like trusting your team and trying to work with people that you trust, from beginning stages onwards, like building trust. At least with your music folks, because then you guys are at it together and trying to like make the product as good as it can be for the story, right?
But
if you feel alone in the job, which we can do as composers, because we're often like in our rig by ourselves, not speaking in the writer's room. It's good. It's just, you need community. I would say that's my big one.
Yeah, I would say communication, again, is essential, like throughout the project, and just kind of going a little over the top and just ensuring that, everyone is hearing everything, making sure whoever needs to hear something. And it's just make as many friends as you can on the team. Amazing. If it's a new team that you've never worked with before, you want to have, when things get crazy along the way, you want to have people advocating for you because you've become friends with them, So just communicating and being a great hang and just having a great time and being helpful and proactive is always really, really important.
Awesome. You. Come on.
Advice for
yes. For up and comer. Filmmakers. Yes.
Oh, geez.
Please.
Advice composing related?
No, just for as a filmmaker.
Okay.
Just like stuff that you wish you knew, something.
I think my biggest piece of advice is to really trust yourself. I know that's like maybe a little bit cheesy, but especially when you're making really bold decisions, from the script stage to the productions, to the editing, to the composing stage. If you're going to take big swings, you gotta have to trust yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's a risk, and yeah.
Amazing.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes.
What do you think, Mandy?
My piece of advice is that we all serve the story god, whatever the story god is. We directors give themselves notes. As composers, we get a lot of notes, and we have to take the notes and work on it together. It is a collaboration, but sometimes we have to kill our darlings to make something. I know a lot of favorite scenes end up on the cutting room floor, and everybody, I think as composers, when we're by ourselves, we forget that everyone else is getting notes too. So I think, just keeping your ego in check a little and just staying part of the project to do the best for the story.
Incredible.
Very similar to what Mandy said, actually. These were I have two notes in my head, which I learned from the great Richard Bellis when I read his book, The Emerging Film Composer. The first is no place for your ego when you're working. You're a craftsperson and not an artist. So make sure you keep that ego at bay because you're serving the story, as Mandy mentioned. And I like to balance that with another note from Richard Bellis's book, which is that yes, we are servants for the story, but we're also experts in music. So don't be scared to speak up when you feel something isn't working. And also, as composers, our turnaround is usually much faster than directors. Like by the time the director finishes one film, we've probably worked on 7.
Yeah.
So sometimes we know what works and what doesn't work. And speaking out, the director might not take your advice, but if they do, that's great. And if they don't, at least you know that you were trying to help.
Yeah.
So don't be scared to speak out. Yep.
That's awesome. I get that. You're the last, when you get to be watching the spotting session, like you have fresh ears and you're on the team of the filmmaker. So it's like there's that first time we're on board. We don't have anything. We just want it to be great. You can say something. It's incredible.
And when there's mutual trust and mutual respect, which are 2 key factors, everything after that is fine. As long as these 2 are in place, then everything works out.
Thank you guys so much for joining our cozy little conversation. Please make sure to check out all of these films. These folks are incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Heather.